boys and girls. I'm Nana Rose. This storybook that I have in my hand, which I will show you in just a moment, is pretty old. It was my mom's. My mother was born in 1924. Let's say this was hers when she was 5 or 6 years old. So it's from the late 20s, very early 30s. This is called Hiawatha Alphabet. And you can tell by looking at the cover of the book that it's an old book. I am not a Native American, or as it's often said, an indigenous person. I read through this to make sure that there wouldn't be anything that would be offensive. What was acceptable in the 1920s might not be acceptable now in the 21st century. The only thing I thought in the book that might be unacceptable is that Hiawatha is called an Indian. And in the 21st century, people who are from India are called Indians. People who lived here in North America, we either call Native Americans or indigenous peoples, because they were here before Europeans came over and before this continent was called America. So I think that's the only thing that might be offensive. I think that the illustrations depict what Native American or indigenous people's lives would have looked like early on. If I am incorrect, my sincerest apologies, but I wanted to read this because it's an alphabet book, and it's an alphabet book based on a character of Hiawatha. I hope that it's done with sensitivity. Hiawatha Alphabet by Florence Holbrook. And there's the alphabet. Let's sing the song together. Most everyone knows that song. And that's my mother's signature at the top of the book from when she was young. Let's see. Ready? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Now I've said my ABCs. Next time won't you sing with me? Now this also has numbers at the bottom too. The Hiawatha Alphabet. Hiawatha Alphabet by Florence Holbrook. Illustrated by H.D. Pohl. The illustrations are beautiful. So it was copywritten in 1910. Dedicated to the mother of the dear boys Mackenzie and Little Happy, for whom the book was written. The foreword here is a quote from Rudyard Kipling, and it says, "The fine old easy understandable," oh, let's try that again. "The fine old easy understandable alphabet of A, B, C, D, and the rest of them got back into its proper shape again for all best beloveds to learn when they are old enough." And it says, "A greeting. Now all you little children who in these pages look, you will find a ring of keys to unlock your favorite fairy book. The keys are letters A to Z, just 26 in all, but they'll reveal the mysteries of books both great and small. So take the keys, my little friends, and when you know them well, you'll find it easy then, I hope, to read and write and spell." In the English language, the 26 letters are the keys that you need to learn all writing and And that opens up a world of possibilities. A. A is for arrow, so swift and so keen, the very best arrow Hiawatha had seen. B is for bow, that was made with such care. With it Hiawatha hunted the bear. So when people use the phrase bow and arrow, the bow is the part that's bent, and the arrow is the part that shoots. C is for cradle, so soft and so warm, and this Hiawatha slept safe from all harm. So when indigenous peoples were traveling or working, they would have the baby in a cradle on their back, just like parents do today in a backpack or a front pack. Exact same thing. D is for deer, the reindeer so fleet, with big branching antlers and swift running feet. E is the east, where the bright rainbow gleams, when the sun in the west, on the clouds, sends its beams. F is for firefly, that shines in the dark and lights up the woods with its tiny white spark. Fireflies are fun to watch. Sometimes if you cup your hands gently, you can catch one. You can look at it, but then be sure to let it go again. G is Gitchigumi, the big shining sea that beats on the shore with its waves wild and free. If I'm not mistaken, Lake Gitchigumi is another name for one of the Great Lakes. That's what the indigenous people called the lake. I'm not sure which one though, whether it was Huron or Erie. H is Hiawatha, our dear Indian boy, whom all children love and read of with joy. That's the only place I might say indigenous boy as opposed to Indian boy. I is Iagu, the warrior bold, who told Hiawatha the stories of old. Storytelling is very important. That's how we remember our past. That's how we communicate about our future. Storytelling. J is for journeys the great hunters made, o'er sea and o'er mountain, through forest and glade. Everyone makes different kinds of journeys. It could be a short walk to the local store. It could be getting in the car and going on a trip. K is for Kwasind, the friend strong and true, when Hiawatha, or with Hiawatha he made the birch bark canoe. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. Kwasind. L is for lilies, the wild prairie flowers that blossom for children in the long summer hours. M is for moon, which golden and bright rides through the skies to give the earth light. N is for Nokomis, the grandmother dear who taught Hiawatha never to fear. Hopefully we all learn from our grandparents. O is the owl, who with owlets so small chatters and scolds in the pine trees so tall. A baby owl is called an owlet. P is the pathway that leads to the river. Hiawatha comes softly with bow and quiver. Q is for quiver, with arrows so good that are made of the strongest oak tree in the wood. The quiver was the container that held the arrows, or holds the arrows, I should say. So when going bow hunting, you have the bow, the arrow, and then the quiver holds the arrows. R is the rabbit Hiawatha called brother. They played in the woods and loved one another. S is the squirrel with big bushy tail. He holds it high up in the air like a sail. Actually, the S is sort of the shape of the tail, too. Tail kind of makes the shape of an S. T is the thicket, wherein hid the boy, his heart beating fast and throbbing with joy. What does he see in the thicket? There's some deer off in the distance there. U is ugh, ugh. Do you hear the great bear? All fretful children of him should beware. Bears do make a snuffing sound like that. Sounds like ugh, ugh a little bit. V is for venison, the flesh of the deer. A very good meat, but to some it tastes queer. When we eat cow, we call it beef or hamburger. When we eat pig, we call it pork or bacon or ham. And when we eat deer, it's called venison. Why is it then when we eat chicken, it's called chicken? W is for wigwam, that looks like a tent. If you lived in a wigwam, would you be content? X is the sign for the arrow and bow. Hiawatha wrote much in pictures, you know. The first kind of writing was in pictures before people figured out different ways to make marks that meant something. Y is for you, who are going to school to learn how to read, write, and cipher by rule. I don't think very many of you look like that when you're going to school anymore, though, huh? Most of you are on a school bus when you go to school. And this book is so old that the last page was missing, so I photocopied a copy of it. Z is the very last letter you've met, the 26th letter of our alphabet. And that's Hiawatha alphabet. In the next video, we're going to do something a little bit fun with the alphabet. Whatever you do today, have fun.